So you've landed in Barcelona. 3 days, 1 suitcase, and 1,000 possibilities. Where to go? Sagrada Familia, Parc Güell, or maybe the Gothic Quarter. I've put together 3 perfect itineraries for you. 1 itinerary for each day. Today is day 2, the second itinerary.
Today, we'll walk from the Arc de Triomf through the entire Old Town along Passeig de Gràcia and finish at the unique houses created by Antoni Gaudí.
Our perfect itinerary for the second day in Barcelona starts right here, at the Arc de Triomf. This isn't a military arch. It wasn't built to celebrate any kind of military victory. In fact, it was the entrance to the World's Fair, the main ceremonial entrance. And the whole area around it was also rebuilt and transformed for this exhibition. In the architecture, you'll notice motifs of bats were used. Yes, we see bats, and that's not by accident, because bats are a symbol of the kingdom, of Aragon and Catalonia. But why bats? Once upon a time, bats saved King James I of Aragon when he was fighting the Moors. And the Moors wanted to catch the king's army off guard to attack at night. But the bats woke up, started flapping around the camp, and they woke up both the king and his army. And thanks to that, they were able to grab their weapons and repel the sudden, treacherous attack from the Moors. Since then, the bat has been highly valued and revered in Catalonia, as well as in the surrounding lands that were also part of the Kingdom of Aragon. For example, in Valencia as well. The Valencia Football Club has a bat as its emblem. The roots of this, the origins of this, go back to that very event with King Jaume. Beautiful. Barcelona, that's what makes it so wonderful. It might be cloudy here, but literally 10 minutes later the sun is shining, and Barcelona is perfect for walking. We're in Ciutadella Park. This is the very place that, in my opinion, is unfairly overlooked by many tourist routes. I think that everyone who comes to Barcelona simply has to visit here because it's awesome. And in fact, instead of this park, there once stood a large, powerful, fortified fortress with cannons pointed toward the city. The fortress was built at the beginning of the 18th century to subdue rebellious Barcelona, which always wanted independence. Those Catalans who wanted to live on their own, outside of any other entities or states. The townspeople hated the citadel and dreamed that one day this fortress would be destroyed and a park would be built in its place. 150 years later, that's exactly what happened. And now, instead of the old, hated fortress, all the people of Barcelona enjoy this wonderful Ciutadella Park, where they come to walk, dance, spend time with their children, and have fun. Barcelona locals love this park on weekends and holidays. It's always very crowded here. In the summer, you can see lots of people sunbathing, having picnics, and enjoying nature. It's truly a very pleasant park. There's this wonderful mammoth in Ciutadella Park. It was built here 100 years ago. Originally, it was a big ambitious project to create an entire park of giant prehistoric animals, all sorts of dinosaurs. They started with the mammoth, a 4-meter-tall reinforced concrete mammoth, but then the money ran out. As we're navigating through Ciutadella Park, we entered from the side of the Triumphal Arch. The entrance to the park is behind me. If I continue to go straight ahead on this path, eventually I will certainly end up at the city zoo. And you can take your kids there too. The zoo is really interesting. You can take a walk around the park. Right there, behind me, there's a beautiful fountain. You definitely have to see it. And when we leave from here, we'll head that way toward the castle of the 3 dragons. We'll exit into the Born district right next to it. The Born district is our next stop. It's the next point on our route. We're at the market now, at the old market in the El Born district. This place used to be bustling with activity, full of merchants. It was the center, the commercial hub of the entire old quarter. But then reconstruction began, and archaeologists, when they opened up. In the floors of this market, they discovered that almost untouched beneath the ground lies an old medieval city. That's why the market was closed and a branch of the Barcelona History Museum was opened here. And anyone who comes in here can do so completely free of charge. You can take in all this beauty, see it, and experience it. Behind me, the flag of Catalonia is flying. 4 red stripes on a golden background. The history of this flag goes back to the 9th century, when the ruler of Barcelona, the Count, was wounded in battle with the Arabs, and with his bloodied hand, he ran his fingers across a golden shield, leaving 4 bloody red stripes. These 4 red stripes on a golden shield are the coat of arms of Catalonia and the flag that is still used today. El Born Boulevard, the heart of the El Born district. There are several interesting sculptural objects on it. During the 1992 Olympics, an artist decided to turn this boulevard into a ship, a historic warship. He said that these trees mark the boundaries of the ship. But a ship must have cannonballs, of course, and the cannonballs are still scattered around here. Also on the ship, various valuable items are transported. There is a large cast iron chest like this on the boulevard. Santa Maria del Maria, Our Lady of the Sea. The 14th century cathedral itself with a boat, pure Catalan Gothic. In what style little has remained to ours. It cannot be. It seems that much more has reached from within. Yeah, when you go in, the facade is small, but inside it's amazing. As often with medieval churches, they didn't have enough money to finish the facade. Even though this is Barcelona's cathedral, it took an effort to build. There's another story connected to Santa Maria del March. In the 15th century, Barcelona experienced a rather large and powerful earthquake, which caused a fire in the church and the collapse of the central window. This is the central window. It collapsed inward and buried people underneath. 30 people, 30 parishioners of the church. They died. In memory of this event, when the church was restored and the window was rebuilt, it was made in the shape of tongues of flame. If you look closely, the segments of this window resemble little tongues of fire. This is one of Barcelona's cultural landmarks. It's called the Caganer, the pooping boy, a Catalan peasant caught in the act of answering nature's call. As souvenirs, you can buy both traditional ones, as well as figurines of all sorts of celebrities. All of them are depicted in this squatting position. The path to the Picasso Museum was opened even during his lifetime. The artist studied in Barcelona. He came here with his father when he was 13 years old. His father was a teacher. He taught fine arts right here in Barcelona. And from an early age, Picasso showed great artistic talent. And while today we all certainly know Picasso for his truly unique style, his very early works, meticulously collected here in Barcelona, are indeed classic paintings. Mainly, by carefully looking at his classical paintings, you can clearly see that before developing his own truly unique techniques and distinctive features, Picasso first diligently studied classical art, and he did quite well at it. The museum's collection mostly consists of works that the artist himself donated to the city, Barcelona, in gratitude for the years he spent here. And for the most part, these are the artist's early works. An enormous number, just piles, kilograms, of drawings, sketches, and studies that he made from a young age. At the very edge of the El Born district stands the Palau de la Música Catalana, a very beautiful, very unusual, and distinctive building in the Art Nouveau style. For some reason, many tourists never make it here and don't even know about this building, but I highly recommend that you make it a must-visit. So, here we are at the Palau de la Música Catalana. This is a concert hall where, for more than 100 years now, live concerts have been held, and it has the best acoustics in the city. Personally, I like this place even more than the famous, promoted houses, Gaudí on the Passeig de Gràcia. But for some reason, far fewer tourists come here. And at the entrance you can easily buy a ticket and go inside straight away. There are many stories and legends associated with this place, with this building, with this concert hall. They say, for example, that a young actress died here right after her premiere. And to this day, people hear her voice backstage, especially when there's a rehearsal or when the part of that very singer is being performed on stage. And nothing can be done about this ghost. Also, right behind me is the dome, a special dome, concave in the shape of a sun, surrounded by 40 choir singers. They say this dome accumulates creative energy, And if you stand directly beneath it, you might experience a moment of inspiration. Many musicians, rehearsing in this palace, ask conductor to position themselves accordingly. Right under this dome, rehearsal goes well, successfully, and creatively. Watch to get a better orientation. This is the Palace of Catalan music. Let's turn around. This is Via Laietana, a large street that separates the Del Born and Gothic quarters. We walk a few steps along it, and now it is visible through the gap between the houses. Our main landmark of the Gothic quarter is the Barcelona Cathedral. There it is. We are now in the Gothic quarter of Barcelona. Behind me are the gates of the old city of Barcelona. This is where Barcelona began. There was a Roman settlement, a place for veteran legionnaires retired and wanted to spend their old age warm, close to the sea, with a good climate. So Barcelona was a settlement. Later, the city grew. In the 12th century, a medieval city emerged, expanding beyond the city walls. Then, closer to our time, in the 19th and 20th centuries, the city spread to the mountains. Before that, everything Barcelona was just this quarter we call the Gothic Quarter. We stand near the central cathedral of Barcelona, classic Gothic architecture. You can see similar cathedrals in many other European cities, but unlike them, the cathedral in Barcelona was built relatively quickly, just 200 years, from the 13th to the 15th century. The cathedral is dedicated to Saint Eulalia, a 13-year-old girl who suffered a painful death for her Christian beliefs back in Roman times. To honor her memory and make sure she is remembered, there are still 13 white geese living in the cathedral's inner courtyard. To get to the cathedral's roof, you have to wait in a small line. I wouldn't say this is the best viewpoint in the city. There are more interesting places in Barcelona, at least in terms of the view of the surroundings. But still, it's nice here. There's a great atmosphere. So if you've already come into the cathedral, you should go up to the roof as well. This gargoyle is one of 250 that decorate the cathedral. First and foremost, these creatures served as drain pipes. When it rained, water would flow through them and drain down. All these gargoyles, each one has its own unique appearance, different from the others, and how they look depended solely on the architect's imagination. We know the story that the architect who sculpted the gargoyles for the Barcelona Cathedral was in love with his wife and found out about her infidelity. And instead of going to court, getting a divorce, or doing something else to her, he took his revenge in such a way that he depicted her as an ugly gargoyle on the facade of the Barcelona Cathedral. And now, hundreds of years after this event, we know about that very betrayal, immortalized in stone. The main killer of your time when traveling is the belief. We'll figure it out when we get there. But figuring things out on the spot will cost you many hours of precious time that you've already paid for. No more wasted money where you could have saved. No more tourist traps hyped up online that end up leaving you totally unimpressed. No more missing out on beautiful spots that were just steps away and you had no idea. All of this is possible thanks to curated, ready-made routes and travel guides for the most beautiful places in the world. Spain, Portugal, South Africa, England, the Czech Republic, the Balkans. All of this is already available or will be on our website very soon. Download ready-made routes and enjoy every moment of your journey. Behind me is probably the most photographed, the most photogenic landmark of the Gothic Quarter. This is the Bridge of Sighs. Many people think it's an old medieval bridge, but in reality, it's a modern construction. It was built just over 100 years ago to add mystery and charm to Barcelona's Gothic Quarter. So, from the cathedral, we walk through the Bridge of Sighs along a small, cozy street, and little by little, we approach one of the main squares of the city. This is Placa de Jaume, named after the famous and revered king of Catalonia. It's quite small, pretty compact, but at the same time, very cozy. This modern thing here actually symbolizes an ancient Catalan tradition. Towers that are built out of people. One person stands as the base, then another, then a third, a fourth, and so on. The lightest children usually climb to the very top. And at various holidays, festivals, fairs, and celebrations, these human towers are built. They keep building them here in Catalonia. Now we're heading to the Royal Square, another spot in the Gothic Quarter of the old city that's definitely worth seeing and checking out. And it's pretty cool. Here it is, the Royal Square of Barcelona in all its glory. It's a classic, typically Spanish square, perfectly square-shaped and surrounded by arcaded buildings. And there are lots of little restaurants with terraces. Behind me is the oldest fountain in Barcelona. This is the Fountain of Saint Anne, which has been here since the 14th century. Originally, it wasn't a fountain at all, but a watering place for horses that came into the city, passed through the St. Angel city gates, and the horses were watered right here, in this very spot. This thing on the wall, it's actually not just some random scribble. It's a fresco that Pablo Picasso created especially for this building, for Barcelona. This is the center of contemporary art. This is the most famous Spanish Inquisition. Right behind these walls is the very Inquisition itself. Even though it looks like a charming courtyard with orange trees. The wall of this house, for example, was made from stones that were taken from the old Jewish cemetery on Mount Montjuic. On the stones, you can see Hebrew inscriptions from the gravestones. Like here, you can read words here. Sorrow, sadness. Here in Hebrew, something is written. I don't actually know Hebrew. Someone's playing some kind of bandura here. This is the old Square of the Kings, one of the oldest in Barcelona, preserved since the Middle Ages. Here's the entrance to the Royal Palace, right up these steps. It was right here, in this square and in this building, that Queen Isabella and King Ferdinand. According to legend, Queen Isabella and King Ferdinand welcomed Christopher Columbus, who had returned from his voyage after discovering America. This isn't a very remarkable column, but in fact, it's a medieval pillory. People were chained up here, tied, hung up, and the townsfolk could mock them, throw rotten vegetables at them, spit on them, ridicule them, and so on. This is a pillory, right in the middle of the Square of the Kings. And this little annex, this small outbuilding right next to it, is the house where the executioner lived. He wasn't given housing in the city, but right next to the royal palace, he was allocated a government apartment where he lived. Here, in this small courtyard in the Gothic Quarter, there's another interesting place that we'll take a look at. A striking depiction of a kiss between two lovers, two lips. And what's interesting is that this whole picture is made up of thousands of small photographs, ordinary photographs, that people sent in to be captured on this fresco. This is one of the most famous cafes in Barcelona. It's called For Cats, and it's famous because Pablo Picasso loved to spend his evenings here. He even drew the menu for this cafe. So, today we started with the Arc de Triomf and visited the Ciutadella Park. We passed the Del Born Quarter, the Gothic Quarter. From the Gothic Quarter we came to Plaza Catalunya. And from Plaza Catalunya begins the street Passeig de Gracia. This is the biggest, most beautiful, and most important street in Barcelona. It has the most beautiful houses, buildings, and restaurants. There are Michelin-starred restaurants in Barcelona alone, 108 of them. Many of them are either on Passeig de Gràcia or nearby. But once, this used to be a road that connected old Barcelona with a small village called Gràcia. What I love about Passeig de Gràcia, just like many other streets in Barcelona, is that you walk, and suddenly you come across another marvel. Another beautiful little building that you didn't notice right away. You just stop and simply look at it. You can look closely at the details and see so much. Right now, we're across from the most famous block on Passeig de Gracia. It's called the Block of Discord. That's a reference to the apple of discord, which the ancient Greek Paris gave to the most beautiful goddess. And in Spanish, the word Manzana means both apple and block. Therefore, the Quarter of Discord. Here are 3 buildings that have claimed to be the most beautiful on Passeig de Gracia and, therefore, the most beautiful in Barcelona. These are Leo Morero's house, Casa Amatai and Gaudi's Casa Batlló. Now we'll take a look at each of them. But all of them are unusual. All are extravagant. All trying to outshine the others. The house is on this street. We are standing in front of one of Gaudi's most famous houses. This is Casa Batlló. While creating it, the great architect recalled the Catalan legend of Saint George. Saint George, who killed the dragon and freed the princess. And this house is a tribute to that legend. The roof of this house, the tiles, are made to look like dragon scales, and the windows and balconies are the bones of the people the dragon devoured. The house is very unusual, both outside and inside. It is definitely worth visiting, but it is advisable to buy tickets in advance. Another famous house designed by Antoni Gaudí on Passeig de Gràcia is Casa Milà, or La Pedrera, as it is also called, the Stone Quarry. This house has a very scandalous history. Even when built, Gaudí, its architect, fell out with everyone, and with the client, who was paying him for the construction of this house, and even with all the townspeople, who hated this house from the very beginning. Some kind of monstrosity, rising floor by floor on the main street here. But in the end, the house was built, and now it is considered one of the recognized masterpieces of the great maestro Antoni Gaudí. So, how did you like it? Now let's have a delicious dinner, and tomorrow we'll set off on the final, third, and most interesting day of our journey through Barcelona. You can find links to the other days of the itinerary in the description. And of course, you can always contact me to request a tour of Barcelona, or a tour from my wife Natalie, a professional guide who will tell you all the most fascinating things about this city.